it will progress inevitably, and that all we can do is jump on or jump out the way, that there is no stopping technology. And that is a myth which is propagated to make us feel powerless, that we have any say in the way that technology is used. Because technology is an expression of the elites of the society that create it. But what we should take from that is that once we know that the three elites that are actually harnessing technological power and spreading this myth that there's nothing we can do about it, then in fact, once we see that for the myth that it is, then we are more able to say,
resistance is not futile.
This culture will consume the world in order to power these machines. And, it doesn't require some fiendishly clever conspiracy on the part of machines to do this. What it requires is, I love this line, unquestioned assumptions or unquestioned beliefs are the real authorities of any culture. And all it takes is an unwillingness to question the beliefs on which the system is based. And there's a great line also by Upton Sinclair. It's hard to make a man understand something when his job depends on him not understanding it. And I would say it's hard to make a person understand something when their entitlement depends on them not understanding it. And when their addiction depends on them not understanding it. I think that it's all tied to addiction too. The word addiction actually comes from the same root as to enslave, because originally a judge would issue an edict causing someone to become a slave, and so they were addicted. It's pretty clear, when we talk about people who are heroin addicts or something, it's pretty clear that they are enslaved to the addiction. And it's a little bit less easy to see in ourselves as we spend most of the day staring at a screen. And it's also a bit more difficult to see when we talk about some group of people being addicted to power over others, which is what this culture is really based on.
There is no way that technology is neutral. Technology reflects the elites, the passions, the capacities of the people that create and then continue to use it. Once you start looking at the technology plus the culture, those things together mean that the technology is constructed in a certain way, and it's understood in a certain way, and it's used in a certain way. And once you start putting all those things together, then it has a purpose for the people that are talking about it, which is far from neutral. Technology is always harnessed to a particular end. Now, sometimes that can be positive or negative, but it's not as simplistic as saying, it's up to people how they use it, because people can only use it within the constraints of how it's designed, the knowledge that they have, and the society that they've been socialized in. And those three things together mean that technology has an actual cultural value which is far from neutral. Until we start asking those questions, what are the social costs and benefits? And who is excluded? And what is the environmental cost of all this? I mean, there are, in terms of the huge amount of toxic landfill from discarded mobiles, for example. Yes, and, until we start looking at those other pictures in terms of, we look at the way that technology works as a network of connection, but instead see it as part of a living world, because technology is not part of that living world. It has an impact upon that living world. Until we see those bigger questions and technology in the broader scheme of things rather than just as its own story, I think we're only scratching the surface of the many ways in which we are using it, and we're using it to change ourselves and our futures.